is tense as Lars Åberg arrives at the SPD's regional party conference in Berlin. Election results have left him and the party's rank and file shaken. As preparations get underway, SPD delegates are feeling the strain.
We know our members want open but fair discussion. We aren't prepared to just toe the party line, as was too often the case in previous years. I think that members want us to look ahead and talk about where the SPD is headed and how to reach these goals.
But for now, it's time for party leaders to put up a brave front. Berlin Mayor Klaus Wowereit must come to terms with the SPD's particularly poor showing in his city, the German capital. Today he tries to brighten things up with a few jokes. But the situation is serious. Wowereit's keynote speech has to be equal parts straight talk and a morale booster for the SPD party faithful. Yet more than anything, he needs to prevent the rift between the right and left wings of his own party from deepening.
My friends, we are much too weak to waste our energy on these kinds of disagreements. They're costing us a lot of strength, and we're talking past one another. Let's sit down and work things out like we did today, and then we'll see that we're strong enough to represent our party to the outside world. It's about an internal struggle toward better results, but also about coming together to represent social democratic values together to the outside world. This is the only way forward because we've become so weakened.
Wowereit's SPD has been governing the state of Berlin in a coalition with the Left Party for the past 8 years. The mayor would also support a similar coalition on the national level. But not all of his fellow Social Democrats in Berlin agree.
It's essential that the SPD take stock, starting with our core. We need to chart a new course, and we can't let ourselves be dependent on other parties. I think that's wrong.
Meanwhile, the young delegate has other concerns, looking after his young son. He was satisfied by today's speeches, but something is still lacking.
We need to review the last 11 years in government and think about what our next goals should be, and you can't do that in 2 weeks, let alone in 2 speeches. It's a discussion process that should involve the whole party.
Members of the SPD's old guard are stepping down, but first they speedily settled the matter of who will take on the mantle of party leadership. Once again, the party's base was excluded from the discussion. Sigmar Gabriel was nominated for party leadership. He's keeping a low profile for the time being. Commenting on new policy and the SPD's relationship with the Left Party is something he leaves up to the outgoing General Secretary.
Questions about the possibility of a cooperation with the Left Party in other states or even on a federal level depends first and foremost on the left themselves, particularly on the clarification process that needs to take place. That's something we can neither control nor judge, but I can only point out that the Left Party has yet to establish its own party program.
Åberg is meeting SPD supporters at a round table in his district of Berlin-Schöneberg. There's little sense of political renewal this evening. The mood at the small gathering is thoughtful, a search for answers. The alliance with the Left Party in Berlin did not benefit the SPD in September's national elections. So what's next?
On a national level, it's about overall goals, but state by state. You have to look at what the election results were, and then you have to discuss what kind of political plan is realistic. You just can't say, okay, now we're open to cooperating with the left because otherwise we'll have no chance to lead the government. That's not what it's all about.
For Lars Åberg, the SPD has enough to worry about. Another delicate issue is the Agenda 2010, the SPD's controversial yet effective labour market reforms. Should the party abandon that policy or stand by it? And should failed Chancellor candidate Frank-Walter Steinmeier, the agenda's architect, lead the SPD's parliamentary group?
The way it's going now, a lot has gone wrong or just isn't working. And that's where we just need to readjust and think about how to approach it and what to fix.
The fact is, it wasn't just Mr. Steinmeier pushing through the Agenda 2010 without the support of the entire party. That's just not the case. He's going to run into problems now as the leader of the opposition. If Steinmeier says a coalition between CDU and FDP is a disaster for social democracy, they only have to say, Agenda 2010 has been successfully voted down because it's not social enough. Steinmeier's campaign strategy had a credibility problem, and that made things tough.
There's a lot of discussion. Post-election opinion polls show even lower approval ratings for the SPD. And if the party doesn't manage to turn things around, they could even drop below 20%.